Hi guys, it's Lindsay. Welcome back to my channel and to another reading video. This is going to be what I read in November. I think I read 7 books. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Yeah, I read 7 books in the month of November. It was actually a really good reading month for me, which was kind of surprising. I actually was not expecting to read this many books in November, but I had literally no plans at all. So that is partially why I was able to read so many books. So we will go through it. To be fair, also one of these I did read mostly in October and then I finished it in November. So that's why technically it's in here. But we will get started. So the first book is Caravel, something like that. And this book follows Scarlett and Tella, who are going into a kind of carnival type of night circus. Scarlett has to try to find her sister. Her sister is involved in it, and it is run by a person named Legend. Legend has magic, and there's only certain times that this entire night circus essentially happens, and she has to try to solve all of the clues and things and find her sister. So I have mentioned this book a couple times in one of my vlogs, and I had mentioned how I was struggling to get through it. I think part of this is because, one, it is in like third person. I have realized that I am not a big fan of third person books, and I struggle to read them, which I think is why I struggled so much with this book. And second of all, I read this right before Iron Flame came out, and I had so much excitement for Iron Flame that I think I did not give this a fair shot. And I would rate it probably about 3.5 stars, which I know is really low for a series that everyone loves. I did end up buying the second and third book purely just because I'm a completionist and I need to read an entire series. So I'm gonna try it. I'm gonna see if I like the other 2 books better, but I think this is a good reason why I did not like it is because it's in third person and because of Iron Flame. But I still enjoyed it. At the end of it got a lot better than the beginning. The beginning was a little bit harder to get into, but it did get better as the book went on. After Caravel, I read a book that is called Stalking Jack the Ripper. I do not have that book with me, and that is because it actually belongs to a friend and I gave it back to her, so she let me borrow it, and I thoroughly enjoyed this book. It was about, I can't think of her name right now. I can think of the guy's name in it. His name is Thomas. What was the girl's name? I can't think of her name right now, and I don't actually have it with me, but she essentially was living in the time frame that Jack the Ripper was going around and killing all of the women that he killed. So she was trying to figure out who had killed all these women and who was behind it all. So she was trying to get like clues and stuff, and then Thomas, who is the main male character in this book, he was trying to help her sort it out. And I was not expecting the end of it. I finally caught on like around like maybe a chapter before they finally revealed who it was. It was one of those books where I was surprised by who it was, but also I knew it was not who she suspected, because she suspected a couple of different people before I finally revealed who it was, and I knew immediately. I was like, it's not them. I already know it's not them. I'm rating it 4 stars because I think it was great. I know it's an entire series, and again, I read it so quickly because I was trying to read it before Iron Flame, and I kind of regret that, but I would 100% continue on the series because I genuinely thought it was a really good book, and I really loved the twist at the ending. Next, I will talk about Iron Flame, which is the entire reason for me doing these what I read in blank videos. But this is Iron Flame. Technically this is not the official book of Iron Flame, which I know you guys are like, what do you mean? This is the special edition 4th wing copy, so this is a little bit on the smaller side because my friend has actual Iron Flame. Like, I do not have it with me, but I still wanted to show you guys like an actual physical book of it. So I have the cover because she doesn't want the jacket of it, but this is my special edition 4th wing in it. Iron Flame. So if you guys didn't watch my last what I read in video, I talk about 4th wing and how much I loved 4th wing. Iron Flame, unfortunately for me, fell a little short. So it continues the story of Violet and Xaden and them. It literally starts exactly at the end of 4th wing and continues on because 4th wing ends on a cliffhanger, and it starts exactly at the end of it. and I unfortunately slugged through the first couple chapters. It was very hard to get into for me. By the time we got to the end of it, I was like, okay, this is like picking up. It's a lot better. I'm gonna give it 4.5 stars, and that is purely because I struggled to get into this book, unfortunately, and I'm really sad that I did. I still thoroughly enjoyed it. It ends on such a big cliffhanger that I literally sat there and stared at a wall for like 5 minutes after I read this book. There's so many emotions that you go through with this. Violet and Xaden trying to figure out their communication is just kind of annoying, unfortunately, in this book, and I'm giving it the 4.5 purely because I thoroughly enjoyed the story. I still continue to enjoy the story, but the pacing of it was a little strange, and unfortunately I feel like it was a little rushed. So that is why I'm knocking it down those half stars, but it is still probably one of the best like fantasy books I've read. It's just unfortunately kind of fell a little short. I am so excited to see what happens. The next book after this is not going to come out for like probably an entire year. She hasn't even started writing it, but I need answers to this book like now. Like I need the answers, and I'm not going to get them. So I will probably reread this again just so I can kind of go through and see if there's things that I missed, because I know there is. I know there's things that I missed. And then I've already gone through all the different theories that everyone has. We find out like different things about Xaden that he's been hiding in this book, and then there's more theories that are going around about the cliffhanger, and I need the next book now, but also I need it to not be rushed. So that's what I feel like this book was that it was unfortunately a little rushed, but I still genuinely enjoyed this book. Thought it was great. I still love the storyline. I love Xaden and Violet and all the secondary characters. Like, it was genuinely a really good book. After Iron Flame and having to go through the emotional roller coaster that I did, I then went down the rabbit hole of romance books. I am very much a mood reader, and I was like, all right, I need cheesy romance where they're not gonna fight 24/7, where I know they're gonna end up together, and I just need cheesy romance in my life that's not gonna make me want to die because of the storyline. So this next book that I read is Yours Truly by Abby Jimenez. I have had this book in my TBR for a decent amount of time, and I was just putting it off purely just because it was like a romance. I wasn't in the mood to read the romances because I was reading the thrillers and then I was reading the fantasy, so we went back to this one. But this is about Brianna, and she is a nurse, doctor I believe, and she's working in a hospital, and she's in the middle of a divorce, or she just got divorced, and her brother is sick and needs a kidney transplant, but he needs a whole entire donor. And in comes Dr. Jacob Maddox, I think is this one. Is this one Jacob? Yes. And he is actually a perfect match for her brother. However, he in the beginning is technically considered her rival because they're going for the same job position, but Jacob doesn't even want it. He doesn't want anything to do with it. He has a lot of social anxiety, so things don't go off very well, and this is essentially their story of how they end up getting together. It is a like fake dating trope. It is one of those of like they're gonna fake date, become friends, and then end up together. I related to Jacob so much in this book because he has social anxiety, and he was struggling with some of the just basic things of socializing, and I was like, you and me both, buddy, you and me both. I believe we get both perspectives in this too. It is a dual perspective, which I did really like. They hand notes to each other, like they write notes because Jacob enjoys journaling, and so he writes notes, and I just the notes aspect of it like just makes me so happy. I am gonna give this 4 stars. It's a lot to get me to get to 5 stars, but this one is probably 4 stars. I thoroughly enjoyed it, and I think if anyone just needs like a good cheesy romance, read this one. Part of Your World is her first book that she has, and this is kind of a spin-off from it because Alexis and Daniel, who are in the first book, are also in this one because it is her best friend. So read this book if you need a cheesy romance. And continuing on my romance journey, next I read Love Theoretically by Ali Hazelwood. This one is about 2 physicists who, one is a theoretical, one is I don't know if it's applied, or I know one is theoretical. Experimental. There we go. I was like, there's a word in this. And Elsie is the theoretical, and then Jack is the experimental. And Jack writes a whole entire article that ends up being fake that pretty much puts a disgrace on what Elsie does, which is theoretical physics. In the beginning of this, Elsie is essentially having all these different versions of herself. She creates a different version of herself for each person to make their lives better so that she can better suit them. And in the beginning, she is dating Jack's brother, and she is technically fake dating him because she goes on fake dates, and that's how she knows Jack originally. And she finds out that when she's trying to get a new job at a university, that lo and behold, Jack is there, and he is now pretty much the thing stopping her from getting the new job. They eventually start getting to know each other and then end up together essentially. A lot of it though is him questioning her because she is not being truthful. She's dating his brother but also is not dating his brother, and she shows different versions of Elsie to the world, but he catches on to that and can actually catch when she is not being truthful. I also really enjoyed this book. I read this book so quickly because I was like, I need the cheesy romance in my life. I would probably give this one 3.5. I didn't enjoy it as much as yours truly, but I thoroughly enjoyed it. It was very interesting having to like go through all the different scientific verbiage that's in this book. I know that Allie Hazelwood is very much known for like the science stuff because she has the love hypothesis as well, but cheesy romance, you can't get any better than this, and I love cheesy romance. Next cheesy romance, because we did them all, this one is Things We Never Got Over by Lucy Score. So first off, look how thick this book is. I was like, who needs a romance story this big? Who needs it? And I was like, there's no way that this is gonna keep my attention. It's like a 500-page book. You already know they're gonna end up together, so you're like, what love story needs to be this long? And oh my god, I was hooked on this book. This is about Naomi Witt, who has a twin sister who is on the run from her fiance, goes to a town because her sister said she needed to meet her there, but then her sister ends up stealing her car and everything that she owns, and essentially she ends up getting stuck in this really small town. And as soon as she walks into the bar, everyone thinks that she is her twin sister who literally causes all these issues, and she calls him literally a Viking in this book, a very big broad-shouldered guy walks in, his name is Knox, and essentially tries to immediately pick a fight with her because he thinks that she is her sister. Naomi eventually finds out that she has left her 11-year-old niece to take care of because her sister completely just left town. So Knox essentially ends up helping Naomi. He helps them by giving her a place to stay, gives her rides and everything until she's able to buy a car, and he is literally the grumpiest main character I've ever seen in a book, and I was living for it. She is just so positive and happy, and he is so grumpy and brooding, and I lived for it. The little grumpy brooding and the happy sunshine makes me so happy. It's like one of my favorite tropes in books like this. My only thing with this is that I kind of wish that we got more of the twin sisters storyline. So we got a lot of it. There was a lot of different like aspects where Knox's friends were trying to figure out what happened to her sister. Knox's brother gets shot. Like there's a whole entire storyline that has to do with her sister. I just wish that we had more of it. We do find out what happens in the end of the book with the sister, and there's like a whole drama thing at the end of it, but I really wish that we got more from it. Personally, I would give it 4.5 stars. It's not a 5 stars, a lot to give me to 5, but I genuinely thoroughly enjoyed this book, and I read it so much quicker than I thought I would. And again, didn't think it needed to be 500 pages, but then as I was reading it, I was like, oh no, it needs to be 500 pages. Camera battery died, so I had to change it. So if the angle lighting or whatever changed, that is why. But last, but certainly not least, I technically finished this book on December 1st, but I'm counting it in November because I read most of it in November. The last book that I have here is Divine Rivals by Rebecca Ross. I had so many recommendations for this book. If you enjoyed Fourth Wing, everyone said read this book. I'm not quite sure why. I don't know if it's just because like it has a little bit of magic to it, and it has like a wyvern in it, and it has like romance and a war. Maybe that's why. I'm not entirely sure why everyone was comparing the two. However, I did really enjoy this. I was not expecting to, and I did. This book is about Iris, who is a writer or a journalist, and she writes for a newspaper, and she has a rival by the name of Roman Kit, and they're both trying to get a position that is at their workplace. They're trying to vie for it. And Iris has some personal things that happens in her life, and her brother is essentially in the war, so she starts writing letters to him. She has some issues with her personal life, and eventually she writes a letter that goes through a wardrobe and she gets a response back. And what the readers learn earlier than Iris does is that the writer that corresponds back is actually Roman, and he doesn't tell her his name because he is afraid that she's going to find out that it's him, and then all of a sudden is not going to keep writing to him, and all these different things. Like, she tries to originally write to Forrest, who is her brother who is in the war, but Roman essentially ends up answering. She eventually becomes like a war correspondent for a different newspaper, goes off to war, and Roman follows her there. She then learns that he is the one that is writing the letters, and then they start like an entire love story. And it is so intriguing because they essentially are able to send these letters back and forth through a wardrobe, and it has the magic involved, and it has like two gods that are fighting with each other in the war, and Iris and Roman are literally just trying to figure out how to navigate all of it. And the ending of this, I was not expecting. I need to know what happens next. The next book comes out in December 26th, and I need to know what happens because it threw me for a loop. I was not expecting the ending of this. I was not expecting them to essentially have to try to fight to find each other. I know that, like, I'm trying not to spoil it, but also trying to give you a little bit of context, and I thoroughly enjoyed like the notes and stuff that they sent back to each other. Like, their love story is just so cute, and I need a Roman Kit in my life because he's just unapologetically in love with her, and he will do anything for her, and I need him. Like, I need a version of him in my life. So I would give this book also 4.5. Again, it's a lot to get me to 5. It was also a little bit harder for me to get into it because this one is also third person, but it was kind of interesting because you still got both perspectives even though they were in third person. But once I finally got into it, I loved it. That is everything that I read in November. Like I said, it was a very good reading month for me. All of the books right here, there's a lot of them. That's gonna be it for this video. I hope you guys enjoyed my what I read in November. Please keep watching these and I will keep doing them. If I eventually kind of lose interest on these, I will stop doing them. But not every month is gonna be like this where I read 7 books in a month. I hope you guys enjoyed the video. Please give it a thumbs up if you did, or even if you're enjoying PLANMAS, because this is a PLANMAS video. So if you guys did enjoy it, please give it a thumbs up. Subscribe if you're not already, and I will see you guys in 2 days for another video. Bye!